All right. Well, I'm excited. I'm very excited to be here tonight. And I am looking around the room and seeing beautiful faces that I'm not seeing too many faces. Please come on. I want to see your faces. I was looking at Leah. There's Simon. Hi, Simon. So, most of you know me that are on the call, and I'm not sure if we have some guests. So my name's Michelle Yasuda, and I'm the program director for the Foundation for Conscious Living Big Leap Home online programs. And these programs support individuals, organizations, and communities in generating agency, connection, and creativity on our shared planet. And I just love that. So I appreciate you coming and joining our Big Leap Bridge class. And this is a place where we engage in Hendricks practices and play and practice together. It's really a place for us to come together in discovery. So I want to let you know about a couple of things before we launch into our call. The first thing is that we have a network. It's called the Big Leap Home Network, and it's a gathering space for Hendricks Institute and Foundation for Conscious Living community. And it's a platform like a Facebook group, but it's not social media and there's no ads or anything. I just love it because it's just our community. And Katie shows up on there. Katie Hendricks shows up on there. And if you have a question or you have something she loves to see people practicing. So if you post on there, you might get some comments from Katie. So you're also going to get all the latest information and events that are coming up, and some incredible tools that are weekly tools that we post on there that are amazing. So I will put the information with how to join in the chat when I am complete with speaking. So I think everyone pretty much knows how to use Zoom these days. If you don't know how to raise your electronic hand, it's okay to wave your arms around. I won't see you as quickly, but I will see you. And if you have questions during the call, Soph, is it all right for people to interrupt or yep,
great. Come on in.
Yeah, great, awesome. So I think that's it for logistics. So now I have the great pleasure of introducing and appreciating Sophie. What can I say about you? You came into my life out of nowhere, and I feel like you are a soulmate. I just feel like this is one of those beautiful souls that I must have known in somewhere in another realm. I feel so just comfortable around you. I feel like I can be myself. And you are one of the most generous and loving, kind-hearted people I've ever met.
Oh my.
Yeah. I really deeply appreciate you and the work that you're doing. I tell people all about it. I'm so excited that you're here tonight to talk about it because it's profound. It's a profound connection between the skills that you've gathered and that you have from whatever worlds you've come from and the Hendricks world. And I just see how you integrate all of that into a way of living that feels like that's what I feel like after working with you.
Wow.
So yeah,
we should all have a Michelle with us. Being so kind. It's funny because one of the first time you and I connected, it was through a class like this, and there was all these windows with all these faces. And I don't know if you guys do public speaking, but they often recommend, like zoom on one, just like focus on one that you feel most comfortable with. It was definitely you.
Aww.
And the entire time I felt like I was just talking to you. So thank you apparently we were mirroring that for each other.
Yes, apparently that worked well. Yeah.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me work with you guys. It started from this place of the work I do is serving communities where people may not have the structural necessarily that you get in like big corporations, like as entrepreneurs, sometimes we just kind of like run, and we do, and we don't necessarily set up systems that really support and give us the space. And so the work is called Be Current. There's a website if you guys want to check it out at some point, but it is basically a methodology where I use a platform called Trello that you guys may be familiar with. And the methodology, though, is not, I mean, Trello is the vehicle. It's not the work. The work is really about how do I connect. And one of the reasons Michelle wanted me to come and invited me to come is this notion of the full body yes, right? Like, how do we build our lives so that what makes it onto our calendars or schedules or to-do list, they really are aligned. And so the fact that we have the teachings of the Hendricks, that we can kind of really understand what that means. Like the first step of my work when I work in other environments is to explain that. Like, imagine your life could be just really the result of you choosing with this full body experience where it's like, yes, this is a go. And then what happens when you do that is you look at your calendar, you look at your to-do list, and it's all like, yes, as opposed to maybe you make a decision and in 2 weeks, you look at the thing and it's like, why did I say yes to that? Like, I don't want to go to this lunch or this thing or this other, right? And so the work that I'm going to show you some samples of and some flavor of it today really has to do to bring this kind of almost, I don't want to say spiritual, but like almost like this behavioral and psychological pieces that we know from the work that we do with the Hendricks, but to bring that into the productivity, the kind of down to earth, like, what do I do tonight, today, tomorrow morning? Like, how does that translate into my actual choices? And when I sit down to do my work, how does that really truly connect with my deeper and soul kind of longing? And a lot of people tend to look at their to-dos as like just a series of things that happens, and they don't realize that the addition of those things is what's going to make a good life or not, a good day or not. And so it's a pretty powerful process. Does anybody have any questions? Like, I'd love if you want to come in and say a word. And those of you that are not on, you know what, I'm going to not look at those that are not on camera. I'm going to move that. Can I do that? So I don't see is that all right? So anybody has anything?
Yes, there's a way to say hide. If you go into preferences, hide non-video people or something.
Good. Bye. Okay, very good. All right. So if you don't have any questions, I'd love to take you on a little tour, a little journey to share a little bit of the principles of this work. I'm going to share a screen with you guys to be able to do that. And we are literally going to go on a little journey because I'm going to take you to the mountains where the cows live. And you notice I have the wrong shoes to go visit the cows. So I will put on my boots and take you with me. And so what happens when you leave the cows to do what they want to do during the day, if they have, this freedom to roam, is they will spread in the mountain. Like, they will just find their spot and they will tend to sit there and just like munch away. But at some point, cow number one over here, the one at the very top, says, you know what, I'm done with my day. I want to go to the food and I want to finish my day over there. And so she basically picks up a path and goes and does that. Now, cow number two over here says, well, you know what, that's probably the path to get to the food. And so off she goes and follows the path that number one has started. And of course, number three says, I guess that's the path to get to the food. And number four, So what happens after 3, 4, 5 cows have done that, we have a path where there was no path. Like, somehow it's become the thing and the way to do it. So cow number 5 over here says, well, I guess that's the path, and off she goes up in the mountains pretty far, when really probably we would all agree this would have been a little bit faster. And the reason I'm showing you this silly drawing of my cows that I love so dearly, I'm from France. I actually grew up in Normandy, and so the cows have a particular meaning for me. But what's really beautiful with realizing that these cows, they basically followed someone else's path without really making sure that it was, one, the path for them, or two, remotely the most productive path. And of course, the parallel is that it's happened to us. Like, as children, we were exposed to people, to schools, to teachers, to parents, to whoever took care of us and introduced us to life in ways that were maybe not very productive. And so, like, a teacher may say, homework for Thursday. And the kid is like, why on Thursday? It's like, well, because I said so. Okay. And then you grow up as an adult and you have to do these things, and there's no grading, there's no carrots and sticks and all these things. I mean, some a little bit, because life will handle that. But for the most part, we kind of left with like, okay, now I have to deliver, like, whatever that means. I have to be productive. I have to be motivated. I have to go and do my thing. But we haven't really learned how to do that. And so what happens is the very same way that the cows end up with these paths that are really not actual paths, we do that with our brain. And so it literally creates a neural pathways that says, oh, when this happens, I guess I do that. So maybe I don't delegate, because my mother used to say, you know, if you want to do it well, you know, if you want to have it done well, do it yourself. Or maybe you witness someone, you know, they lost control over something, and now you've really learned to be super controlling about your stuff and you never let it go. Or things like, you know, collaboration, which we want to do as adults, that was cheating when we were kids. So we had to kind of grow out of that, because when you were helping your little buddy, which is a cool way to work, that was really treated as something that's a bad thing. And so we want to take that back. This is what this is about. We want to take the work back, and we're going to let the cows be cows and eat in their barn. And I'm going to take you somewhere else for a moment, because what happens to our brain when we do this thing that the cows have done, there is a version of that happening. There is a part of our brain that gets reserved for something that we want to do. I actually believe that aging has a lot to do with like too much, like the RAM is no longer available up there. When you have a system that helps you to catch those things, you start using your brain not so much like a shelf, you know, because it comes in and there it lives because you don't do anything about it. The brain is not, it's not a good use of our brain. Our brain is there to create and innovate and have fun and invent new ways. And so what happens when you have a system, which is part of what I'm going to show you today, is that you're able to put that stuff somewhere. Like the same way when you come home, maybe you went to the market and you have, I don't know, food, meat and vegetables, but you also have toilet paper and toothpaste, and you know where to put the stuff. Like you don't come home and like everything is like dropped in the middle of the hallway, right? You know to put the meat in the fridge and the toilet paper in the bathroom and so on and so forth. And so what happens is, because a lot of us haven't had a chance to really be deliberate about all this, it literally mimics the came home from the market and dropped everything in the middle of the hallway, which of course would not be a very efficient way. And so having a system where you can put the stuff, you can take it out of your brain. That's the point of all this, is that having it floating in our brain. David Allen says this beautiful thing about, we are not stressed about how much we have to do. We're stressed because we don't know what that is. Because what's happening up there is that, you know, maybe it's 2 a.m. and you forgot that thing that you had to do. And so now you're like, well, you know, and now I have to do this thing. And then you literally, the stress comes from not having a place where you can look at your stuff and decide, what am I doing next? And so this work was developed over years and years of running companies and leading teams and having all sorts of fun things that were created from a place of, when I want to go from point A to point B, like, what do I do? Like, what does that look like? How does that translate to, I sit down, it's my time to go to my desk, what do I do? And so I have a question for you guys, if you don't mind putting in the chat a couple of sentences around this idea. Like, when you start your day, where do you go? Like, where is the place where you prompt yourself to decide what you're going to do for the day? So just you can call them out, you can speak, you can write, whatever works for you guys. But I'd love to hear, I go to my emails. Yeah, you're used to. Michelle and I at my desk with lists. So do you have lists on paper, Vandana? Is that like your, I don't know where you are, but is it like lists on paper? Yeah, journal.
Yes, for sure.
Planner. Good. My planner, yeah, very good. Google calendars, yeah, very good. Very good. Anything else? Calendar and list on Trello. Elaine, you use Trello, the woman of my heart. There we go. So from what you're experiencing with your systems today, unless you have one place that has it all together, what happens is you sit Notion. I love Notion. I'm actually really considering using Notion, which my clients are a little bit upset about, because they're all like, oh, great, now you put us on Trello and you're going to go and use Notion. Thanks. That's great. But it evolves. It's a very, it varies, mostly the kitchen. That's really funny. So yes, it's a field that's evolving at light speed, because wanting to do more things, wanting to be more in touch with the stuff that we want to do, as we were saying at the beginning, the full body yes, it's becoming more and more of a conversation. Like, how do we perform better? How do we be done at the end of the day? How do we close shop and be able to go home and, or stay home, but lately, but just kind of shut down the day and be able to say, you know what, now I'm going to be with my kids, or now I'm going to be with myself, or I'm going to go for a walk, and I'm not going to be thinking about all that stuff because the stuff is in the system. And so I don't know how much time we have that I could actually show you. And if you are, because I didn't realize you guys some of you are using Trello. So I would love to actually show you some of the system. Do you think, Michelle, that would be a fun way to like show them how it flows? Yeah. And then if you have questions, or if you want to use it a separate way, we can talk, you guys can have questions at the end, and we can talk a little bit about what are the ways that you can basically bring in the methodology into other, even on paper. You can even use it on paper. And so do you have any questions about that? I would love to see, never heard. Let me see. I don't know. Michelle, do you want to tell me a little bit what they're saying? Because it's hard to follow everyone.
Well, it looks like, yes, we'd love to see it. And just different comments about everything you've talked about so far. So nothing important to point out. A piece of paper for Simon. Yeah. I have a pile of pieces of paper, Simon, that I don't know about you. That's what happens if I don't use my system.
Yeah, and the value of having a system is what I like about this particular one that I'm going to show you, that I've developed over Post-it notes. Some people use Trello as if it was an extension of Post-it notes, and it does so much more. Like, it's such a cool, powerful tool. So I'm going to show you maybe a couple things if you haven't seen it. But one of the ways that the work starts is the way you let it in. Similar to, whatever you eat, like there is a moment where you decide, okay, I'm going to put this in my body, right? And what you decide to put in, how do you decide to put it in, how fast, the kind of deliberation you do with yourself, or the conversation you have with yourself before you let it in, similar. And so one of the things that we work with is breaking down. So say the word, I don't know, taxes, and my body go, I don't want to do my taxes. But if I say, I want to find the receipt for lunch that I had with Michelle because I need to track my expenses, then it's like, well, that's cool. That's a very cool thing. Like, I can actually break it. Like, we don't climb Everest. That doesn't mean anything. We go buy shoes and we walk around the block, and then we go for a longer walk. And then we talk to people that have gone to Everest, and somehow that breaking it down, the idea that we don't eat an entire elephant in one bite. And so it's a very simple but very practical tool, is to, when something comes at you already, make a decision right there and then, like, what is the actual very next step that I can do? Because taxes, what does that mean? Like, next time you're going to look at this thing, you're going to be like, I don't want to do that, because one, it's not something you can actually, I can't watch you do taxes. Like, I can watch you find your receipts, or, maybe reconcile your receipts or things like that. And so breaking it down makes the body and the experience when you sit down to do it just more relaxing. Like, instead of being like, whoa, a mountain, now it's like, oh, I can do that. And so that's what we look for. And what I'm going to show you is we try to break down everything that comes our way in a way that when the body sees it, or when your eyes just like glance at it, the experience is one of like, oh, I can actually do that. So what I'm about to show you, and by the way, we're going to do a little, that's not a contest. We're going to do a little game where Michelle and I, before this call, decided on a number, and we're not going to tell you what it is. And you're all going to don't do it now. Don't do it now. Like, at the end of the call, we're going to have you like put the number in the chat, and whoever's the closest to our number, I'm going to gift like doing this work like one-on-one individually with you guys. So whoever, and if there is more than one that's close to the number, then we'll do it, we'll do all of you that's close to the number. So if you like the system, that would be a fun way for me to be able to work one-on-one with you. Do you have any questions or anything you want to say? No?
I want to say that I can't underline enough the value of what Soph is offering here is like $5,000 worth of work. So it's like, this is actually a life changer. So I just want to underline that what a generous thing it is that you're offering. And if you feel moved by Soph's offer and want to make a donation to the foundation, that would be wonderful, because I know it's something that's close to your heart, Sophie,
Very
and
much
you've
so.
done so much for the foundation. So I just wanted to say that, no obligation to that, but if you're feeling like you want to make a donation, if you're the winner, we would gladly accept that on Katie and Gay's behalf. So
It's funny because I was asked, thank you, Michelle. I was asked this morning, I was in an environment, like a podcast environment, and the person said, but why do you do this work? Like, what motivates you to do this work? And I was very deeply moved to like, just kind of almost scan the people I've done the work with. And by now it's probably in the thousands, really, because I do large groups as well. And it's just this beautiful thing when you see someone who maybe has struggled a little bit with productivity, or maybe doesn't have a system that they feel at peace and they feel where their mind can go at rest, and just watch this transformation when they start doing something that's simple, like a lot of simple things. As you know, of course, it took me 40 years to develop it. So the simplicity comes out of some complexity, but it's actually very simple. And just to watch someone go from, I've been wanting to write a book, for like 20 years, and I've not done it. And all of a sudden you start having a system that you can break it down in a way that you do write the book, and rather quickly. It's just so moving to me. So of course, doing it with anyone around Katie and Gay makes me even more happy, because I know you guys are into big things and fun things and life-changing things. And so supporting you by bringing a little bit of structure sometimes, that makes me happy, very happy. So this is what the eventually, when we do the work, this is what we get. We get a board that is almost like a dashboard, and that is where we would come and start our day. Some people, funny enough, mostly my clients that are masculine gender, tend to do it the night before, because they like starting their day kind of like, ready to go. And my more feminine, flowy people, not necessarily female, but feminine energies, we tend to do it when we wake up, because there's something about, how do I feel right now? As opposed to, I decided last night that tomorrow morning I'm doing those things, which they both work. But basically what we do when we would do the work is we download all of your systems, your Post-its, your notes, your brain, your Google this and your Google that, and Dropboxes, and everywhere you have a commitment. That's another piece that ties really deeply with the work with the Hendricks, is that in order to keep your integrity, which is a powerful concept, certainly one of the pillars of their work, in order to keep your commitment, you have to know what they are. Because a lot of people just walk around, it's like, oh yeah, I'll send you the thing, and sure, I'll invite you to that thing. And then 10 seconds later, with the brains that we all have from what's happening in the world and the speed at which we get information, it doesn't stay in your brain. And then it's 3 weeks later and the guy texts you and you're like, shit, I said I was going to send him the whatever. And it's like not a pleasant feeling, right? So, but you also don't want to be holding it in your head, because your head is for poetry and love and laughter, not for, to-do lists. So we would download all of that, and we would, so if you see the screen right now, you notice that there is a few columns. And for those of you who don't know Trello, the background that has this yellow thing here, it's called a board. And then these guys are called a list, just so you understand what I'm referring to. And then these guys are called a card. And so you can move things around, you can make them go away, you can make them come back, you can do all sorts of things with these cards. You can label them, which I don't recommend using a lot, but there's lots we can do that makes the flow between, I have an idea, to, okay, now I have the thing done, the book, the house, the move, I don't know, from cut your hair to, invent a new way of driving a car. You can actually break it down into the very next thing. And so you'll notice that all of these actions are broken down with a verb that starts the sentence. All of them: tell, announce, follow, share, buy. And so what happens is you do the work ahead. So the second you think of something that you want to do, you break it down right away to like, what is the very next thing you can do? Why do we do that? Well, one, because if you look at something that you cannot actually do, your energy drops right away. So if it's Michelle's birthday and I don't have her number, I'm not going to write, call Michelle for her birthday. I'm going to write, call Leah to get Michelle's number, right? That's the very next thing I can do. Like, you never want to put something on a list that is like step number 17 of something that maybe step number 2 will never happen. And so now you wasted all your thinking on 16 steps that will never see the light of day. And so what we do here is we break down the whatever it is that we ultimately want done, we break it down into something that we can absorb. So there's examples here, like actually I was writing a book when I started doing some of these samples, and like this is a good example, like spend 30 minutes coming up with titles. Well, when you're writing a book, you know, it's like that, sit down, okay, I'll spend 30 minutes, right? That's like a step that I can do. And so I sit down, I write my titles, and then from here I go, maybe I'm done with the 30 minutes doing with the titles. Now I'm going to do chapter, you know, chapter headers or whatever. And so I keep changing the step towards something that's the very next one that I can do. And then at some point during the week, I decide, okay, this is what I'm going to do today. So you'll notice this is, so let's just pretend it's the end of the day and I did all my stuff, which I tend to do by 97%. And so that came out of what was said that morning or the night before. So I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do this today. And then you do them, right? Like you do the work and it's now done. This is what you do with it. It comes to this column, watch the screen. Yee! You get a moment of like, you did something really good. And then you do the next thing. And so another place where things can be living on this board is you've done your step, but now it's on somebody else. Like you cannot move that needle forward without somebody else getting involved. And so again, why would you be looking at this thing in your actual to-dos if it's somebody else? And you also don't want to have it floating in your head. And so waiting on is this beautiful container where you can put everything that you've actually done your step, and especially people that delegate to other people, if you have people that work with you, and then you pass it on to somebody else instead of, you know, be like, oh, shoot, I have this meeting today and whatever didn't give me the thing that I need. You have a visual on what those things are. And so it's a very powerful tool, although it's very simple, it's very powerful to be able to like basically check the thing at the door, right? Like you can leave it outside of your head so that your head can, I feel like a broken record sometimes, but it's like having your head be empty so that you can be present. And those of you who meditate, you can sit down and shut up and not have like all this noise, right, going on in the head. So let me see, what else do I want to tell you here? Michelle, do you want to share what, let me see, what do you guys want me to, I can show you a little more about this focus thing. This is a powerful thing. Okay, shall we go there? So focus and project is a list here where you'll put things that are kind of a bigger nature, like there's going to be maybe 3, 4, 5, 12 steps to it. And you don't want to lose track of it. Like you want to kind of keep your eye on the ball, but it's also a little bit like if I was watching you run a marathon, it's like when you cross that like finish line, that's what goes on that list. So like bigger things, like buy a car, you know, move, like I'm moving to Arizona on Saturday, actually, super excited. And so what happened is it became a project for me, right? Like to move to Arizona was a project. And so when I sat down to do my work that morning, it was like, well, what is the very next step I can do? I can research the movers. You know, that's something I can do right now. Simultaneously, I can also research the storage area we're going to use once we get there, right? Now you'll notice that I do not research the movers and then organize the move. I don't know what I'm going to find. Like if I decide to do the boxes myself versus hire someone else, I don't know yet because I don't know budget and I don't know, like there's all this information I don't have. And so I cannot decide A, B, C, D, E. I don't know what B is going to be, right? But what I do know is I trust myself that once I do the research and I now know what the movers are going to be doing, or maybe I'm waiting for someone to give me an estimate for the price. So that lives here for a moment. And then I look at it maybe on a couple of days later and I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm going to ping this guy. He never called me back. So now I'm pinging him. So that becomes ping the research I did on the movers. And cards keep moving around until they actually get to the finish line. Funny enough, I think I have buy my car on here. Yeah, actually I just went to get my car. So I have it like 2 days ago. So that can go. And so you take it away because it's done, right? I'm not going to take it away because this board needs population on it. But basically, what this does is it breaks down every single thing that you need to do into those small bites. And by putting a verb, identifying what the verb is in the front of it, you've already made the decision of what you're going to need to do to be able to accomplish it. So there's a couple other columns I want to tell you about here. This one is meditate. Different people use different words here. You're welcome to, some people use prayer or think about or incubate or whatever. But this column is something where you put anything that's a little bit, maybe you're a little bit nervous about it, or maybe you're not sure, like there's a little confusion and you don't know what the very next step is. So just letting it breathe is often a good idea. But if you leave it in your head, it doesn't have a place to ground. So by putting it in the board like that, part of your body just relaxes. It's just like, there's this like, okay, yeah, it's handled. Like, I don't need to do anything about this. Like right now, my mom is like super anxious. She had COVID and she was fine, but now she's not. And so maybe I write like, whatever. And then every morning I just send a little love to her. And that's been feeling really, really good. I actually have it on my actual board. This is not my board. It's a sample board. But so meditate is a really beautiful place where you can put anything that has this like, I don't know what to do next. Like, I'm a little confused about that. So there it goes. And then we have this beautiful column called conversations, which what those are is, let's say you work with me. And so you think of things you want to discuss with me, or maybe it's your significant
I will probably
other.
be available by 11:30.
Whoops, I don't know what happened there.
Hi, Elijah. You're available at 11:30 then?
Sorry about that.
No worries at all. It's fun to hear someone's voice. I feel a little bit, this feels like a little bit of a, you guys are super warm, but it feels a little bit like we're always on a, kind of echo chamber or something. Are you there? So the other thing that I love with this board is this idea. So they've done a lot of research recently around what happens when you get interrupted, which I don't know about your lives, but mine, it happens a lot because there's a thing beeping and there's someone who needs something and it comes to my face all the time. When you are in the middle of something that has a little bit of, not like if you cleaning the dishes, no big deal, but if you're doing something that requires your mind and that you're already kind of on a creative, I'm sure this phase where you kind of like you were ramping up and all of a sudden you're like in the groove with your thing. Well, if someone interrupts you there with like, hey, what do you want to do for dinner type of thing, literally it takes you 20 minutes, between 15 and 20 minutes for your brain to come back to where you were. And so that little light thing that people do, like especially now that we all work with our, whatever, our significant others or other people in our houses or whatever, to not have a place where I can hold these things that I want to talk about with Michelle. So this would be called Michelle if I was working with Michelle on a regular basis. And so what would happen is every time I want to talk to her about something, so maybe we're organizing a party together. So this checklist would have party, but we're also organizing a trip that we need to talk about. So now we have a trip here. And those are checklists that you can use inside of Trello really easily. So let's say for the party, we want to decide the date and we want to decide on the menu. And we also want to decide on like what's going to be the guest list, right? But I'm not going to call her or text her or spark her or whatever these tools are lately that we keep interrupting each other with. But I'm going to have a phone call with her or some sort of something where we can just literally go through all these things in a kind of deliberate way. And instead of having it stay in my head, it's now beautifully here. And so let's say I have 3 things that I now want to discuss with her. I would set up a call, which I would write in my lovely today, right? Because that would be a next step that I want to do. I'm showing you how my brain works. Like set up a call with Michelle, because I see that there's like all these things we want to discuss, right? And then we would be on the call and I would be like, okay, so what's going on? Like, what do we need to discuss? And I would literally, how did it not keep that? Here we go. I would literally open that thing and I would tell her what I want to tell her. She would tell me what she wants to tell me. And then we would decide together that the very next step on the date is I'm going to reach out to whatever the venue to see where we're going to go for this party, right? And so what happens here is now I have this card that came out of the checklist. Maybe that's too much details. You guys tell me if it's not interesting. But this card becomes, check the venue. And so I take that next step and it's now in my system. And Michelle can do the same thing. So as we go through these lists, we keep breaking it down into what's next, what's next, what's next. And then whoever is involved with the project, we can pass it on to each other through these boards. Because of course we can share the board and we can see, you know, when you're working on a project, you can see the projects evolving through the different people that are working. So it's a great tool for collaboration as well.
Yeah. Hey, Soph, I want to jump in here. And one of the things I noticed in the chat, a couple of people made comments that about either feeling a little anxious from seeing the list. And I was thinking that I would love for you to speak to how the wiring that happened to make all of this really scary in our body, like in our nervous system. And I was just wondering if you want to speak to that, of how that affects us.
I do. Thank you for bringing that up. Well, what happens is when you look at it, and when I do the exercise with someone, you know, it may be 10 minutes where they literally like, when there's like 50 items that come out of their heads, right? And that's like, oh my God. Well, the truth is, it is in your head. Let me come closer to you guys so I can see you a little bit better. The truth is it's actually there. It's not like you made it up and it wasn't there, right? It's already in your head. So all we did is we, similarly to maybe doing, I don't know, spring cleaning, the first thing you need to do is take that stuff out of the closet, right? To see what's actually there. And so the first thing to know, if that made you a little bit anxious, is that all that stuff is eating at you a little bit. And it's maybe a little bit quieter because you're not seeing it in front of you, but at least now we can do something about it. Including, by the way, why is this thing on my list? Like, I'm not the one who's doing the next step. Why am I holding that in here? That's going to actually give you space. So yes, when you start working with the consciousness of, you know, that's a really great question. Who said that, Darlene? I'm afraid I won't go fast enough. That's beautiful. And yeah, the world is really speeding up. That's the truth. It's speeding up. And so we don't have to play the game. You know, we can, like when you, in a movie, when there's a cartoon and two people are running after each other, but you know, around the tree, and then one person decides to not do that anymore and the other one keeps going and the guy is like, you know, we can decide to do that. We can decide to like get ourselves out of this craziness and slow down. And if we work and if we live in an environment, you know, where we have to deliver for others and we have to keep up with stuff, you know, obviously I think a system is better than no system, because it's not like the stuff is not floating in there, you know. And so having a place where, the other thing is, what's cool is because you're putting it on the list the way I'm showing you, and I would love to show you more. If maybe we'll do a class with everyone and I can show everyone, that'd be fun. We'll see what you guys want to do. But if you have it on the list in a way that you don't look at it if you don't need to, which is this thing that's really cool, is that you can move them. So if it's in the list this month, my body is like, relax, like I don't need to do anything about this until I decide to move it to this week, until I decide to move it to today. Like you're the boss, like you're the boss of you, right? And I remember, Michelle, when you and I were starting at the beginning, you were like, oh my God, all this stuff. And I was like, well, who put it on the list? Like, you know, often, I mean, yes, sometimes it's the job and we have to deliver stuff for others, but when you start doing a list like that, you'd be surprised. I mean, I've seen enough, I can tell you, I've seen enough people be really surprised that it's like, oh my God, it's not as much as I thought. And so this thing that was like a big yarn, you know, ball of yarn in our head, all of a sudden is like, you know, 11 things. And it's like, well, I'm going to do 6 this month and I'm going to do 3, 14, and I'm going to do, you know, 4 today. And that becomes like, you know, manageable. And so because you do that, that releases the anxiety. Because the anxiety is a little bit from not knowing what it is, but knowing that there's something that you owe someone. That's noise. That's like sucks your energy dry, because it's like an open loop, right? It's like an integrity. Forget the integrity, like the moral of integrity, just the mechanics of integrity, right? Like if you take the spokes out of the wheel and then the wheel doesn't support itself anymore. It's like that. It's like if you commit to things and tell people you're going to deliver something and you don't do it, it literally removes a spoke from your wheel, like one at a time. And then, you know, the bike collapses. So
I was thinking about the time when you checked in with me and I
SOS.
think I was pulling my hair out, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. And you basically said, okay, let's sit down and let's talk about this. And maybe we went through all of my pieces of paper. I can't remember what we did, but at the end of it, I think we went through the actual Trello and cleared up the craziness that I had made because I brought crazy to it. I think that's what it was. And I just remember the feeling of,
Exactly. And it's, you know, when you think of it like in a physical space, you know, when you come home and your house is a mess, I mean, some people tolerate that, even thrive with that. But if you're someone who can understand this concept, like the Marie Kondo, you know, of spend a minute in your closet and get rid of things, you're not going to ever, that shirt that you're going to wear when it's raining, but it's sunny, and you're going to paint the house that day, but the shirt really scratches, but I prefer to keep it. What are you doing? Like, what are we doing with those things, right? That's the same for our thoughts. Like, what are we doing with that thought? That's like when I did my first list, which was a long time ago, I worked with David Allen. I was, I want to say 16 years old, which I'm 54 as of last week. So that's a number of years. But I remember it said, I want to learn how to speak Chinese. And my body went like, what? Like, do we want that? Like, is that, but part of my brain had like reserved a little bit of a space up there to learn Chinese that I don't even want to learn. And it's like, what is that, right? Like, what is these commitments that we keep, you know, we don't see that they're commitments, but our body does, right? Like the body kind of holds a little bit of that too, because it wants to help you, you know, like your brain is a friend. It's like, oh, she said she was going to do that. Let's grab. And I don't know if it's time or age or what, but in my 50s, I can no longer, like, if I don't write something down, it's gone. Like, even if it's like super clear, like I wake up this morning, I woke up and I had this like, oh my God, this great title. It's so good, but I didn't write it down. Like I didn't swallow my own medicine as a cute idiot that I can be. And I literally, it's an hour later and I'm like, okay, what is that title? It was like such a good title. I have not found it. I haven't remembered it. And that was like an hour later. So, you know, life and
yes,
whatever. So having a place where you can catch these things so that they serve you back instead of like eating you away, you know, you see them when you need to see them and you don't have to look at them when you don't look at them, right?
there was a question, just a question about is it Asana?
Asana?
Yeah, versus Trello. And if you had a comment on that, on one versus the other.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a couple of people that ask something about ADHD and a little bit of focus questions. So I'll address that as well.
Great.
So Asana is, you know, I don't like the visual. I find the visual busy, and I find that you have to look at the stuff that you don't need to look at. And I think Trello has done a better job at like hiding, like there is the complexity. Like I can show you a few tricks, you know, that are just really smart. Like butlers is one of the things that Trello does, which are automations. And so if you want to, like my mom is on automation, like every morning I get a thing that says call mom in my today. And I don't have to think about it. I do it. It's in my done column. I get a little bit of the confetti and I called my mom and that was great. And that's it. And it goes away. And then the next morning it's back. So, you know, because I want to call her regularly. So the kind of tools that Asana, I would say Asana is amazing for the fact that you can look at the information in different ways. That's cool. Like you can kind of look at it as a, Asana has like, what do you call those things? Like a Gantt chart. Like it has a really cool kind of process that you can look at. And if you want to move one item, because I don't know, the thing if you're fabricating something and there's something you need has not arrived, you can move that and it moves, you know, like those things, right? That's very cool. I just don't find the visual pleasant, but you can certainly do what I taught you in Asana very well. And in ClickUp is one of the new ones that's coming up. I mean, I looked at ClickUp and I was like there was so much. You can do plenty of things, but I don't need a plane in my apartment. You know, I need a plane when I go to the airport. Like I don't want it sitting in my living room. So that's that. Who asked the question about Asana? Does that answer that question a little bit? Yeah. If you guys, I'm going to put my phone number on here. Maybe Michelle, if you don't mind helping, like put my phone number. If you guys want to text me, if you have questions, do not hesitate. Like that's obviously a passion of mine, and I love good questions, and I love, it's funny because when I work with clients, like one of my favorite things is like hearing where the dread is, you know, like the anxious, I mean, we start with that. Of course, we take it very quickly somewhere else, but starting to like, I don't understand, I keep missing this thing. It's like we start from that, you know, because that's where the suffering is, the pain is, and to track down like what are we going to do to solve that? That's the juice. So if you have any of those, shoot them at me. On the ADHD topic, there's a lot of research that's been done around not having a place to put what's in your head makes it more, it just takes some space up there in a way that makes it difficult to focus on other things. And so I work with people, I even work with someone who's autistic actually, which is very different, but it has a complexity as well. And he's not super far in the spectrum also, so he's able to communicate with me. That's a very good question. I'm coming to it, Darlene. The fact that you have a place where you can hang your coat has a certain, because sometimes you're going to be super focused and sometimes you're not going to be super focused. But the fact that when something came to you that you wanted to capture, you had a place to put it somewhere. I mean, it's not something I'm challenged with, so I wouldn't want to speak out of turn. But it's very, I think it has a reassuring quality in general that you can, like we said, you come home with fish, you don't sit there going like, well, I don't know, the bathtub. Like you put it in your fridge or your freezer and you know where to put it. And that has this quality of giving us a sense that stuff is in, you know, we have it together, even if it doesn't, it's not going to do the work for you. You know, you still have to do the work, or you have to learn how to say no. That's one of my big, Katie and I have often conversations around the full body yes, and I often say the full body no. That's also a powerful thing to learn, you know, how to say to someone, you know what, this thing you're proposing, that sounds exciting. And no, I don't want to do that, but thanks, that's great, right? Which is hard to do. So the question, Darlene asked a question around how do we assure that the item is a full body yes? That's really beautiful. You start tracking when you did something on your schedule or your to-do list that you didn't really want to do. You start noticing the difference you feel when something is like, yeah, like today, I woke up this morning and I looked at, you know, tonight, and I knew I was going to be with you guys. That was like such a joy, like such a joy. So it's a very, it's as we all know in the work we all doing, you know, especially with the Hendricks, but there really is this becoming conscious of what, like, how do you feel if you don't brush your teeth? Like, how many hours can you spend without being like, I have to go brush my teeth? It's kind of like doing that, but for your brain, you know, like at some point you're going to not be so comfortable. It's not so comfortable to have all this bubbling in our head. Like I mean, my family is actually recently, like last week, there's a wedding with my family this summer that I'm going to go to. And I said, you know, in a phone call, there was like 6 or 7 of us. I said, I need to find a dress for the wedding. And they were all like, open a board on Trello. I was like, F you. But it is once you understand, you know, when you taste the pleasure of having your head be empty and the space that it gives you, and it gives you that space to do other things, you know, like, I don't know, be present with your kids or go for a walk without being worried about anything. That's, you know, that's how you learn the full body yes. Because if it's not a full body yes, and it doesn't have to be, like, I know in the community, sometimes people are like full body yes. I mean, that's a big, like, I don't get full body yeses, you know, every 10 seconds, but I know when it's not, I know when it's a no. At least maybe we start with that. Like, start with something is feeling like I'm not gonna, I actually do that. When something wants to come into my calendar or my to-do list, I imagine myself doing it. And I think to myself, am I going to be ready and happy to go do that? Because if the answer is no, it doesn't get to my calendar. It doesn't get anywhere near my stuff at all. So that's one.
I love that. Elijah asked a question before, whether on Trello you can hide everything but today. And I thought you might speak to, you know, that and why you would or wouldn't find that useful.
You know, that's the place where I have a few level of answers for that. One of the reasons we don't want to look at anything else is because it's not full body yeses. Like when I look at my this month and it's stuff that's just a little bit delayed, but I'm super excited about it, I don't want it anywhere else. Like I want to know that in a month, I'm going to be setting up a weekend where I go visit the Hendricks or something, right? Like I don't want to, my stuff is all stuff I want to look at. And often what's happened to us is because we are, so much of us is demanded, we've developed, and we don't have, it's like we're asking people to run marathons without legs, like all day long. Like you start a job and in seconds, you're supposed to be, you know, efficient and productive and, you know, all of that. And it's like, how unkind, like we didn't teach our children. And somehow now it's like, you better deliver or else, you know, it's like, I don't know how to do it, you know? And so somehow to be able to say, I don't know how to be productive. It's a skill. And so what happens is because you didn't learn the skill for the most part, a lot of us haven't, I didn't. That's why I studied it like a lunatic, because I knew that it was so tied to, if I want a big life. I want a big life. And I don't want to be stopped by, you know, if Katie comes and says, I want to write a book with you, I want to be like, yes. I don't want to be like, I don't have time, right? That's not fun. So, to wrap up what you just were asking, the reason we want to hide things and we want to put labels and we want to put a date, you know, like a deadline that's a fake deadline, and we want to put stuff in our calendar that's not really true. That's like Thursday morning, I'm going to write because by golly, I need to write. And of course you don't do it because it's an appointment with you and that's whatever, 6 a.m. yoga, we all put in our calendars at some point until we realize how inefficient that is. And so we put guardrails, this is where I was going. Sorry, it took me a minute to do my point. But it's like we all have fears that we're not going to deliver our stuff. And so we put these guardrails. And so what I would like to do, Elijah, with you particularly, is if you want to text me after this, is I would love to like show you, because it's a little bit specific, you know, like why would you want to just look at your today? And you may convince me. But if I show it to you in a way that's organized a little bit differently, I have a feeling it won't be as I don't know, it won't be as overwhelming to look at all of it. That's my
You piqued my curiosity. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I'd love to chat more. You guys are like I don't even know you, but you're my family because you Katie and Gay's family. So that makes you mine. Someone asked a question.
Yeah.
Are we on time? Are we okay with time?
Oh yeah, yes. Let's do one more question and then I would love to do the
raffle, whatever we do.
Yes. And there was a question that I saw in there, about templates. I don't know if that's what you saw, but people are wondering about the templates. And I know that you use particular ones because you use it for your company.
So please don't freak. I'm going to show you. So this is Trello. These here are, you know, all. This is the part I want you to not freak. Like It's like all my clients, so I have an enormous amount of boards, which you shouldn't have when it's just you don't do that for a living. But I'm showing it to you because I wanted to show you. I'm developing, particularly right now, the series of templates that I will have available. So I did, let's see, it's broken down in life. So aging parents templates, you know, like I coach people and they're like, oh my God, I don't know what to do with my aging parents and blah, blah, blah. So I'm building a board that will make that particular thing that we need to do sometimes, you know, better. And I have one of my clients who's in treatment for cancer, sadly, and she's so overwhelmed by how much she has to deal with and the paperwork and the this and the that. We made a beautiful board for her and that removed like 40% of whatever was, obviously there's more to it, but and so affiliate programs is one that I will have as well. It's not built yet, but basically I was going to show you one that is built to show you. Let me see what's a good one. Job hunting. Like write a book is a good one. Write a book is a good one. So anyone who says they want to write a book, and I'm happy to share some of these with you guys if that's exciting. But the second someone says, oh, I've been wanting to write a book, we just open a board, and this board does one thing and one thing only, really, is capturing whatever is like in your head. So there's a series of questions that you may answer, and then you can start like, you know, capturing titles and chapter headers and concepts and stories and quotes you may want to do and endorsements you may get, and all the marketing possibilities that I've already tracked a bunch for. And so all of a sudden, something that's like this giant elephant called write a book is like, oh, I can take a moment. Let's see, this title is cool. This title is cool. That's that, right? And then you do that a couple times and you have the stuff you need to write a book. Like, I get super excited by that. So yes, to the question, is there templates? I have more than you can ever imagine, and I'm happy to share them with you if that's helpful.
Thanks. Well,
Okay.
let's do the number.
The template for creating an online course I want to teach. Yeah, Elaine, I have that. I'm in the middle of that myself. That was incredible. Will there be a replay? We did record it, so you guys can certainly do that. But please, it's funny because when I do groups with my people, you guys are my tribe, and I'll give my phone number and say, do reach out. And then you guys don't. I don't know why. I don't know if I'm scary or something. Or maybe you don't have a list that captures my phone number, huh?
That's right. That's right. It gets lost.
Okay. All right. So we have a number. Michelle and I know what that is. So whoever would like to receive, it would take us a couple hours to set you up. And then once a week for 3 or 4 times, I would teach you how to do weekly review. Darlene, I don't know if you're going to be close to that number, but I'm telling you, you got one. I'm giving you one just because that thing you've been doing in this entire call is just too adorable. All right, numbers, you guys. It's Poonam. Hi. All right, you're doing it?
Yeah, just think of a number from.
Be intuitive.
Yep.
From what to what?
From what to what, the number?
1 to 100.
Oh, what good question. From 1 to 100.
Let's see.
Did you see that? Did you see, Michelle?
Oh, wow.
Someone actually hit it right on the nose. More than one.
Amazing.
Oh my God, more than one, more than one. You guys are so fun.
Whoa.
Okay. All right, here's what we're gonna do. Just because I'm having so much fun. So the number, anybody who wanted to do it, did it? Yeah, shake your hand. Yeah, you did it. We're done.
Everybody put your numbers? Okay.
Okay, whoever wanted to. Hey, Poonam, did you do it twice?
No, I think,
a bunch of numbers.
no, someone wrote their numbers twice, but it's same person.
Oh, it's the same number. Okay, good. That would be
Oh,
so
now
nice.
another person. Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Clever. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. Darlene, I wasn't joking. Whatever your number is, I'm gifting it to you because you're too fun. So that's that. And then the number that we had voted was 33. So both Leah and Poonam won. So we'll do the 2 of you. And if you guys want, and it's not too much on Michelle to help coordinate, what I'd like to do is do all of you who wants to, we could get together again and I could do slowly. I can make you do every step so that you guys build your boards. I'll be a little bit less one-on-one because there's a lot of you. And so we can do that as we can do it as a group. If Michelle, you're willing to do that.
Yeah, I can do that. So please, if you're interested, put your name and email right now in the chat. I'll save the chat and that way I will get in touch with you that way. And we'll do the first 2 people who put 33. So I'm looking now to make sure that that's who it was.
There's more. There's 3 of you. There's more.
There's Leah
Elaine,
and
Leah, Poonam.
Lane. Yeah, Laney and Poonam. Oh, no, not Poonam. Oh, it was Elaine, not Poonam. That's what it was.
Poonam and I are already on a little chat outside of here. So cool. So we have your email. You'll get an email in a few days. We'll set up a time that maybe, do you guys want to give me, what should we do? Like a 6 o'clock, maybe another day?
Mm-hmm.
That good? Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great.
So we'll do a 6 o'clock and then you guys will come and maybe download Trello before, and then we can just like work on a board. Is there a way I can get this whole list printed?
Yeah, I'm going to save the chat, and then I think it automatically saves it when we close the call, which, speaking of that, so it's 7 o'clock. So I want to honor everyone's time and end the call officially. And so if you're willing to stay on for a few minutes after, just for last minute questions, I'll go ahead and I'll end the recording, and that way it'll end the official recording, and then you can chat a little bit after. All right, I'm saving the chat right now.
I did it too.
And
quickly,
so make sure.
So
So I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you. That was wonderful. And I'm excited that we're going to continue our exploration together. Thanks everyone for showing up. And hopefully you're in the chat now. And otherwise, you can contact me. Enroll at enroll at hendricks.com. I have so many emails. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Mwah.
If you guys want to stay on the call for a couple of minutes, Michelle, I love you. I'll talk to you
Love
soon.
you. Mwah.
Thank you. Mwah.
Thank you so much.
Someone asked if Trello